Hello everybody, my name is Bene. I'm the CEO of Bene Studio and welcome you to today's workshop about CI/CD. And let me tell a story why I like to organize this workshop series so much. Look back to that fantastic darts. It's a smart darts actually, and when the founder of it he just started to develop the application, he faced a problem in React. And he asked my advice and I recommended participating to one of our workshops back then. And right after the workshop, during that night, he managed to fix that issue in React and he managed to release the new version of that smart darts. And the second day, he just said that it was a really useful workshop for him. So such a feedbacks give a lot of energy to me to organize this workshop series, and I'm sure all of my co-organizers feel the same. So thank you being here, and I hope that that today you can learn something useful, you can be inspired, and you also can return to one of our upcoming workshops as well. At Bene Studio, we develop mobile applications. This is why CI/CD is so exciting for us. And we also develop web applications for global companies like Volkswagen Group and stunning startups in healthcare and in other industries as well. And our stack is mainly focusing on the cutting-edge technologies, React Native, React, Node.js. So this is why we are organizing the workshop series around the JavaScript stack mainly, and together with our co-organizers, Prezi, Bitrise, TransferWise, Google, we would like to bring you fresh knowledge. And today, let me introduce our speakers. Shimon. Shimon will start soon. Shimon is from Bitrise, and from Bene Studio, Dani will show you this knowledge. So thank you guys, and let's start the workshop.
Cool. Thank you. So hey everybody, I am Shimon. I am a full stack developer at Bitrise for the last 3 years now. And yeah, today I'm going to start the workshop by just setting up the whole CI/CD workflow. And to just, I don't know, get my bearings, I want to know how many of you have developed in React, just web-based React. Okay, cool. React Native. Yeah, thank you. Okay, cool. And have you used Bitrise by any chance for anything? Yeah, thank you. Okay, so today we are going to use Expo for React Native because it just sets up a lot of orchestrating things that we don't need to care about now, and it's just easier to demo the whole workflow. So for today, I don't know, I hope you have already made accounts or you already have. You're gonna need 3 accounts. Github, I hope you already have that one. Bitrise, hope so that you also have that one, and Expo. Let's start by going to the base repo that we have set up, which is at GitHub, Bene Studio, and React Native Workshop Bitrise. And just start by forking that to your own GitHub account. And then I'm just going to use my personal one. Cool. And now we are going to connect that to Bitrise. So if you log into Bitrise, if this is the first time, you're going to have to create a workspace. I already have one that's completely empty. So go ahead and create a workspace with whatever name you would like. And when you are done, you can add a new app. And, yeah. Okay, so when you are adding a new application on the UI, you can set the privacy of the app. You can set it to public. It's just going to show your build logs to anyone who has access to the URL, but it won't show any secrets or environment variables that you don't want to. So this is completely fine to just have it as public for today. Yeah, you're not gonna have to connect your GitHub account here. I already have mine, but you probably will have a little pop-up here that you should connect it, and please go ahead and do so, because we're gonna have to add SSH keys and webhooks, so Bitrise will know about the events that GitHub has. Are you guys following? Is this okay? Yeah, since you already have a Bitrise user, it can only have one connection to an existing GitHub account. So either you need to disconnect that from your existing account, or you can use the existing account. Yeah, this is why I'm actually using my personal user, my Bitrise user that I'm using day to day. Cool. So if you're able to add the Bitrise, the GitHub repository to Bitrise here, then you need to select the branch, which is just a master branch here. And then if you start, then the project scanner will check your application, and we will try to figure out what kind of application it is. So since Bitrise is mainly aimed at mobile applications, we try to figure out what kind of mobile stack you are using, and we will give you our best guess of what it is. So here we have figured out that this is a React Native app, which it is, so that's good. But by the way, you can also use this for any kind of CI/CD. We are just essentially providing a virtual machine. And by the way, we are developing Bitrise with Bitrise, of course. And I do all web-related development here. So if we would like to develop our app to full production, then we would need to set up all these credentials for the various iOS and Android stores. But today we don't care about that, since we are using Expo Go app, and that will just host our application there. So here you can just select the provided values, and it doesn't really matter what kind of credentials you give here for now. But if you were to create a production packages, then you would need to set these up. But of course, you can change these later on whenever you want to actually publish your app. Yeah, this can be whatever. Yeah. This is good. You can check here. So since we have checked that this is a React Native app, we are guessing that you are probably developing for cross-platform, and then you can get an Xcode machine by default. Cool. I don't want to add an app icon now, and I definitely want to register a webhook. So this way we can know about any GitHub event that happens. All right. So everybody done with this? Cool. So then we have started your first build, which is just a basic primary workflow. You can here see what's happening. We are cloning your repository, and we are just running a kind of like a provided workflow that's been set up for React Native, but we are not going to use that actually. So you can just abort this build. It doesn't really matter. We are not using this. Yeah. So first, what we want to do is go to the application settings. And here, we want to enable GitHub checks. And if this is the first time you are using GitHub, then probably you won't have access to it. So, but the GitHub Bitrise application won't have access to your GitHub repository. So what you want to do is install the app for GitHub. And here I'm just going to select this repository. And now I should be able to enable GitHub checks. So what GitHub checks does is that when you, for example, open a pull request, it will allow Bitrise to send checks to GitHub to see if your new code is running as expected. You can define any event for that, but what we are going to do today is check if tests are running successfully and if that PR is a good candidate to be merged. Cool. Okay, so now we are going to configure our workflow. And there are essentially two ways to configure workflows in Bitrise. And a workflow just controls what happens when a new, for example, GitHub event is pushed or a PR is created. And the two ways are both within Bitrise YAML, which is the descriptor. And here in the workflow editor, this is just a UI for all these descriptions. And the two ways are either you store it on Bitrise, which is kind of the easier starter, and then you can actually update everything using the UI. And it's a good way to get started and just read about all your different options and different steps that you can use in your workflow. But what we are going to use today is to store in your use the stored Bitrise YAML in your repository, because what this allows us to do is to have version control of that Bitrise YAML, which, by the way, you actually also have version control on Bitrise, but this way we actually know who updated when and what. So this is just like the more advanced version of this. And also because we wrote the steps for today, it's just much better to share it this way. Cool. So go ahead and change it to repository descriptions. And now, if you go back to the workflows, you should see all the updated workflows, which is essentially the CI and publish. And the git clone is called a utility workflow. If you start a workflow name with an underscore, then you cannot actually start it standalone. Just use it in other workflows embedded. So I'm not going to talk too much about steps and how a workflow is set up today, but if you're interested, of course, you can ask me later. Essentially, you can define any kind of step using your own GitHub repositories. All these steps are just standalone GitHub repositories that we are using here. And if you define what to run, then your virtual machine tries to execute that and displays in the log output what happens. Okay, cool. So what we're gonna need to do is actually define our expo secrets, our expo login credentials. So later on our publish workflow can use that. So secrets are basically environment variables that are escaped in your log files that are output on Bitrise. So when they are run on the virtual machine, no third party or malicious code can have access to those. Okay, so what are these codes? I have expo username, and this is important that you name these the same way because our workflow uses this, which is, you should write your own, and I hope this is it. And of course, just give your own credentials here. So that you were not supposed to see that. That's fine. That's fine. Okay. So now we need to configure the actual check on the GitHub side of this. Is everyone done with this? Can I continue? Okay, cool. Any questions so far? Okay, thanks. So in your forked repository, we are just going to imitate a pull request. So what I'm going to do is to just create a super simple edit in the README. And what's important is that you create a new pull request for this. So now you should see that Bitrise has started a new build, and here you can see that a check is in progress. And if you go back to Bitrise, to your application, then you should see that a build is running, which we of course want. So in the CI workflow, just a super simple test is defined. We are installing dependencies and running tests, and we don't have any tests right now. So this is just going to pass because we actually configured it that it passes with empty tests for now. Yeah, this should finish like in a minute, I hope. And what we can do then is actually tell GitHub that we only want to allow merges to pull requests with all checks successfully completed. So now I would be able to merge this, but for example, if I broke a test, then I shouldn't be able to merge this. Right. Cool. So this finished successfully, and I should see that the check also concluded successfully. So before you merge this, go to your GitHub repository settings. And under branches, we're going to define some branch protection rules. So what we want to do is to kind of protect the master branch. So what we want to do is require a pull request before merging. And it's interesting that that's disabled, but checked. Anyway, that's fine. And we also want checks. And here you can search for any check that has completed in this repository before. So you can use this for any kind of checks, by the way, and it's super useful. We actually use it for code coverage reports, security checks. So if we have any vulnerability, we have a notification about that. So this is in general very useful if you haven't used it before. Cool. And okay, so if I go back, then I think it's going to, yeah, it wants, I'm not sure why this is disabled, but anyway, so it wants a review approval from another team member, but I don't have any team members right now on this one, so that's a bit weird that this is. Okay, I'm not sure. Anyway, since we are administrators in our own repository, we are actually able to go ahead and merge this. So when we merged it, we are going to create a push to the master branch, and that should also trigger a new build on Bitrise. So if I go back to my Bitrise app, then, yay, a publish workflow is running. So while this is running, I'm going to show you how that's set up actually. So in the workflow editor, you see here that we have triggers, and we are using two types of trigger. Previously what we used is that if you want to merge a pull request that it's targeting the master branch, then we are running the CI workflow. And if a push happens on the master, then we are running the publish workflow. And all these are defined in the YAML file. Trigger them up here. So So, and you can of course define unlimited triggers for different kind of events. You can also use tags. So that's, for example, useful for a new release that you are maybe not continuously deploying your new releases, but want to release by tags. Okay, so our publish workflow is running, and hopefully, yeah, it didn't have any cache before because this is the first time it's running. That's fine. Yeah, we are installing Expo and doing a publish them. Yeah, this is going to take a few minutes, I think. Any questions in the meantime, maybe? Okay, everything is clear. That's good. Okay, so then while this is running, I don't know if you were able to install the Expo Go app on your phone, but if you did, and if you log in with the same credentials, then if everything goes well, you should be able to see it when the publish is finished. Yeah, for example, you can see here that all the secret variables are redacted and you don't have access to it, and no one would have, even if this is a public build. Cool. So this finished, and if I update the Expo Go client on my phone, then I should be able to open it, which I am. Yay. So this was the very simple demo that, for example, I didn't have to develop anything on my local machine to achieve this. I don't have Expo running here. Well, we will have it running in a few minutes, but anyway, this is a good way to just deploy your preview app. So of course, this is not a real deployed application that you would be able to send to the store, since this is just running in the Expo container. So it has advantages and disadvantages. So for example, here we were running this workflow on an Xcode machine, but you would be able to run it on Linux as well, which is just cheaper and faster here because it only compiles your React code. But of course, if you were to publish it to iOS, you then need to have access to an Xcode or just an iOS or yeah, a Mac basically that you are able to build on iOS apps. Yeah, so that was the short setup. So now we have time to complete all this and questions and a short break, after which we are actually going to continue. Donnie is going to continue with creating tests and how you can set up and see your workflow in action actually. Thank you. Any questions maybe? I don't know. That's it, I guess.
Maybe I have one.
Yeah, please.
So when you link your project in the GitHub, when you link the GitHub repository, and there was this YAML file for the CI, right? So is this imported automatically, or do I have to copy this and then there is this YAML file that you just because there is something in the document that it creates automatically one for you. So you have to delete that one, and you have to copy it from the repo, or is it automatic? And because it finds out there is already a YAML file in the repo, so it uses it.
Yeah, I understand the question. So no, because the default Bitrise YAML that's created for you based on the scanner results. So for example, the scanner recognized that this is a React Native repository, and it creates basically a sample workflow that's stored on Bitrise. It's actually stored in our database. And what we have changed to is the Bitrise YAML in our repository.
All right.
So
you just copy paste it.
No, so if you have a Bitrise YAML defined in your repository, you can change that setting, but we won't change it automatically because this is actually because of legacy reasons. We cannot change it there, and you have to manually change it over, but you don't need to copy it. Does that answer your question?
No,
Or have I just made it?
yeah, it's transcribed privately.
Okay, cool. All right.
Can you show a little bit more of the Bitrise YAML file, like how it compares to the Jenkins file and
Yeah, sure.
what's the main logic behind it?
So what we have here is a step leaf definition. So the workflow consists of steps, and the workflow has to be able to know which steps it can use. So we have a default Bitrise step lib that's available, and it contains all the official and supported steps. I don't know how much, it's like 500 steps, and also just bash scripts, so you can do whatever basically with those. But the idea here is that you can define your own step library. So for example, I think Tinder, they have a fork of our step library, and they have defined their own private steps, which contains their own private information that they can utilize there, and just more complex logic that wouldn't make sense to anyone else but just for them. And there they can reuse all those steps. Then we have the trigger map, which I have talked about. It's fairly simple. The project type is just basically to tell us what kind of steps to suggest to you, but any step is available. This is just for making it easier, but it doesn't define any kind of stack or machine that you are using. Yeah, with the workflow definitions, you are just listing the name of it and the different steps, and then you can have environment variables, for example, which is defined here as an example. And also we have special keywords, for example, this runif, and that checks if you have what's the evaluated bash command here.
What are those like F2, F1, like next to your steps? Like gitflow, F6?
Oh, okay. Those are versions. So these are versioned steps. So this just means that any git clone step that has the 6 major version. So we are using Semver for the step definitions, and you can define you can pin it at any version that you want to. But yeah, I think it has all major versions defined. Yeah. Oh yeah, one thing that I wanted to mention still is that the stacks, these are not described on the Bitrise YAML, because as Bitrise is a CLI in itself, you can just run it on your own machine, which of course wouldn't make much sense to define a stack when you are running it on your own computer. So only this tab is actually, and this and secrets are Bitrise cloud specific. So if you are running Bitrise on the cloud, as we are doing it now, so here we can select different machines to run for any workflow or just specific workflows. You can define others.
Okay, hi everybody. Let me also introduce myself. I'm Daniel Fodor, and I'm working here at Bene Studio as a full stack JavaScript developer. And I'm also kind of getting into with React Native mobile projects. So that's why we are going to introduce you to this really small React Native project with testing. First of all, let me ask you, have you all cloned your repository? I mean the one that you have forked? If not, please do so. In the meanwhile, let me just a little bit talk about this really small application. It will be a quiz game, sort of, where you have a set of lives and you will be presented one question and different answers. Only one answer is correct, and if you choose the correct answer, then you can select the next question, and so on. And at the end of the game, you can win the game, or if you have run out of lives, you can lose the game. And since there are no tests written for this application yet, we are going to write some tests and integrate with the Bitrise solution that was presented us before. Okay. Do you need some time, more time for cloning the application? Okay. So first of all, let's open the repository and install all the dependencies with Yarn. That's already done. And after that finished, just run yarn start, and it will set up an Expo CLI, and you can choose to run this on your device with using the Expo Go application, scanning this QR code, or if you choose, you can run it on either an Android or an iOS simulator. I will now run it on an iPhone. And meanwhile it is loading, let me just introduce you to the code. This is the main component, the app function, and it really just has, it doesn't really have a navigation because it's just two screens. There is a game screen which is responsible for showing the questions, the answers, all of your lives, and some buttons. And there is an endgame screen which is presenting you either if you have lost the game or you have won. Basically, we are using an open source API which is giving us back these quiz responses. You can see the type. It has either a multiple choice question or a Boolean, which is a true or false. We have some difficulty, easy, medium, or hard. Questions, one correct answer, and a list of incorrect answers. So let's just try how the application works. In the beginning, we have one question. I have chosen a wrong, incorrect answer, so my heart just went down by one. And again, and I have lost the game. Let's start a new one. And now I'm on the second question, which I really should read the question itself. No, it's not. And you can always select a new game. And this is a Boolean question with true or false. Okay, basically this is all about the default code base. And now we are going to write some tests for these. So let's create a folder in the source folder named _tests, _. And in that folder, create an app.test.tsx. For testing, we are going to use Jest as our main testing framework. and also a React testing library for React Native. Let's just import React for now. And first of all, we are going to create a describe block with the title of app. And our first test case would be that in the beginning, by default, we should have all of our lives. So the app should have all the lives by default. And after that, let's import testing library React Native, a render function. Inside this render function, we can create a new instance of the app component, which is just imported here. And this render function actually gives us back a lot of utility functions which we can destructure. As you can see, there are a lot of types. Let me just go back to the browser and show these. So there are three types of so-called utility functions. One is the getBy, which is returns one element if it matches, otherwise throws an error. There's a queryBy, which returns one element or null if it's not found, but throws an error if there are more matches. And the findBy, which is exactly the same as the getBy, except that it supports an asynchronous timeout, and so-called. And all of these has counterparts, getAllBy, which returns an array of different elements and throws an error, and so on. QueryAllBy and findAllBy. So back to the code. What we want to do? We want to check how many lives do we have on the screen. And we can check it by findAllBy test ID. Const hearts findAllBy test ID, and we need to give it a test ID to look for. And we can check it in the game component that there are a list of icons that have a test ID of either heart full or heart empty, if it's full or empty. So let's give it heart empty. And because, as I mentioned earlier, the findAllBy test ID supports asynchronous querying, we can put await here before, but we also need to add an async into this function. And now we are using jest. We can expect that the hearts have a length of, and we can import max lives from our config. And basically that is our first test case. We can run yarn test, and it failed. Because I said heart full. So it should be heart full, the test. FindAllBy test ID heart full. So now this is working. You can also run yarn test watch, and now it will watch this file if it changes, and run all of your tests again. Okay. Next one, what should we test? Well, by default, we should see that we are on the very first question. So let's write a test for that. It should show first step text. Okay, we do the same thing again. For every test cases, render the app. And now we are using find by test ID because we are looking for only a single element. Let's call it current step. We can again use find await before that and add the async to the function. And find by test ID requires one test ID, which will be, we can see from the game component that this text, which is showing the current step slash the number of maximum questions. So the ID is current step. And now we can expect that the current step. And if we hover over it, we can see that this is a React test instance. And on this instance, we can have lots of properties and functions. But what we are interested in is the props and the props.children, because this is a text component, and basically the text inside that is the children. So we are expecting that this is to equal, and let's say 1 slash, and I'm using a template string. And inside this, I give the maximum questions. And this test is passed. Okay, any questions so far?
Actually, I'm new to React, but what does it between the tests? Like, I know from Jenkins that it flushes the database. Is there something going on between the tests? Like,
You mean the fetching the API? Or
no, like, so if it is function and the next is, and the next test is just something happening in between? Or
oh, you mean if there is a cleanup between these test cases?
yes.
Yes. So it creates a clean scope for this to test, and it is a fresh start. So yeah. Okay. So far we have only checked some static texts or icons. So let's do some interactions. Let's say the app should decrease the number of lives if we select an incorrect answer. So should decrease lives when incorrect selected. Let's do the same again. Render the app component. And let's see what we need here. First of all, to test actual logic, we need to mock the API what we are fetching. So first of all, import jest fetch mock. This is a utility package, and that basically is usable for jest mocks, basically. And we need to create a mock response that will be used instead of the real API response. So create outside of the testing scope mock response. And if we want to be type safe, we can give it a type iResponse. Just import it from the interfaces. And we can see that it needs response code, which is just a number. It is a property of the API itself. It doesn't really matter for ourselves. We need the results, which will be an array of iQuiz type. Okay, let's give it a question. The question is, what will be? Do you enjoy this workshop? Correct answer is yes. We also need to give it incorrect answers, which is a list of strings. Incorrect answers are no, not really, or maybe. Category will be technology, maybe. Difficulty, well, it's a really easy question, I think. And we also need a type. Since we have 1 correct answers and 3 incorrect answers, yes, this is a multiple type quiz. Okay, we have the mock response, and inside the describe block, we can say before each, and we can pass it a function which will be invoked before all these test cases. This is actually a nice way to clean up mock responses or database connections or anything. We also have after all, after each, and before all. So we can say fetch mock response, and we need to tell it what response it expects. So it will be a JSON.stringify and the mock response. And now we are testing the app. Fetch inside this test case will give back always this type, this response. So we are testing if pressing a button decreases the question. Let's destructure find by test ID first. And before we are testing the button pressing, we can actually test if the correct answer is presented from the API response. So we can say const question equals await find by test ID. Again, check in the game component. No, actually not in the game component, but in the quiz question component, that there is the title, which is the question, and it has a test ID of question. So let's pass it here. Also, don't forget the async before the function. Okay, now we have the question. We can again expect question props children to equal, and we just copy the question from the mock response. So far, so good. So now we know that the question is actually presented from the mock response. Let's select one button that we know which will be an incorrect answer. So we can say get by text, destructuring here, and let's say incorrect button is get by text, and you can choose one of the texts from the incorrect answers. I'm going with not really. So just pass it here, get by text. And this will get the element which has this text, which will be an incorrect answer. Okay, next we import fire event from React testing library, the same from where the render is imported. And we can say fire event.press, incorrect button. And it will simulate if we press this button. Okay, nothing broke, great. So what we need to do, we have pressed the button. So theoretically we should have one less lives. So we do the same again, const hearts equals, and this structure first. Get all by test ID and look for heart full. And we can also check for empty hearts, which is the same. Get all by test ID, heart empty. And now we can do the expect, which is expect hearts to have length. And now we say max lives -1. And also expect empty hearts to have length just 1. And it looks good. Okay. Everybody's good to go? Okay, fine. Next one, we should test if we actually press the correct button, correct answer, then the step counter will be increased. So the title is should increase step counter if correct answer selected. Also render the app again. And let me show you another technique to get an asynchron element. So first we render the app, and in the background the API response, the mock API response is an asynchronous task. So we can use get by text, but it won't find it because it's not there yet in the beginning, only after a few seconds after the mock response has arrived. So we can say const correct button equals await, and we can use a so-called wait for utility function, which is also imported from the testing library here. And this will actually wait for this element. So we can say get by text, and what was the correct answer? Yes, in capital. Oh, and don't forget the async here. Okay, we have a button, the correct button here. We can now say fire events.press, correct button, and let's query the current step here. So it will be, actually let's call it next step because it has already been increased. Next step is destructure the get by test ID. The next step is where the test ID is current step. And we can expect that the next step .props children to equal, and I use template string again, and we expect that it will be 2/ maximum questions. And it is. There is actually another way to avoid this .props.children. We can say that const next step is equals get by text, and we can just query by the text itself, and if it doesn't throw an error, because we know that if the get by doesn't throw an error, then it returns an element, so it must be there. So this is another way, and we can avoid this .props.children. We just search for the text, and if it doesn't break, it is there. Okay, any questions for these test cases? Yes?
In several cases, you are looking for a string that should match one of the properties in the mock response, and I'm just wondering if there's any specific reason why you are copying that value instead of using the mock response object and accessing the property there.
Yes, that's a good question. So you say we should use mock response results 0 correct answer like this?
Yeah, I'm asking if there's a reason why you should.
I actually would say that writing your own strings in tests is a good idea, because then you avoid, and actually hard coding it twice is fine in tests, in my opinion, because then you actually make sure that you are checking for the right value. And for example, if you don't define your mocks in the same test file but import it somewhere else, and maybe it's not the same that you are actually testing for. So I don't know. I usually do it this way, that you write the string twice.
Okay. So I've finished these tests. One thing that I forgot in the beginning, let's create a new branch. I hope you haven't committed anything so far. So let's create a new branch, tests, because this will be used for the Bitrise workflow. Okay, we have these unit tests here, and now let's talk about snapshot tests. Snapshot tests are basically useful to capture one particular moment of the application, and it is a good way to test if after multiple renders it looks exactly the same on each cases. So inside the tests folder, let's create a new file called game.test.tsx. Import React, and we are again going to create a describe block called game, and the titles will be self-explanatory, because game should match snapshot by default. And what I mean by this is, if we render the game component, it should create a snapshot, and after each test cases it must be the same. So for this we are also going to import from the testing library again the render function, and instead of the app, we are going to render the game component, which you can import from the screens. Yes, we can import the screens. Now, this game component actually needs a lot of props, so let's create those. And just for type safety again, we can use the iProps in the game.tsx, but first export this. And we can give this a type of iProps imported from screens/game. Let's see what props game is expecting. Current index, it is by default 0 because we are at the very beginning of the game. Is-loading is false. Let's say lives, for example, 3. Questions, by default it is an empty array. And we have two functions, and for these we can just say jest.fn, which will be an empty mock function. And also on reset game. And let's spread the props to the game. Okay, now we render the game component, and we can destructure something from it, which is called toJSON. This function will create a tree from the rendered component, and we can expect call the toJSON function, and finally to match snapshot. And basically this is it. If we run yarn test again, we can see that one snapshot is written, and it created a snapshots folder for us, and we can see that we have one snapshot of the game component. And this is the snapshot. We can see that current step is this, and because we don't have any questions, questions and any buttons, we don't see any of those here. And the good thing about snapshot testing is that if we modify just one character in the component itself, just one string, I added an exclamation mark here, and we run again, then we see that the snapshot failed because it doesn't match that single string there. So it's a really good thing. Okay, let's create some other test cases. Some other cases for snapshots. It should match snapshot while loading. And I'm just going to be lazy and copy this line, render the game with the props, but we are saying that is-loading is true. Expect toJSON to match snapshot. And another snapshot is written. We can check it. This is the first one, and it created a second one here. Okay, and just one more. It should match snapshot with questions. Just copy this whole thing again. We don't need the ease loading. What we need is actually a question which will be of type iQuiz. Just import it. And I'm going to be lazy again because I will copy the mock response from the app test file and just pass it here. Okay, that's good. And we can pass a props called questions to the game component, and this is an array of questions. So I put it in an array, and this will be just one question. And it created the third snap file. By default, while loading, and with questions. And if we scroll down, we can see somewhere yes, we can see the question in the snapshot file. Okay, any questions for these? Okay, so let's commit what we have done so far. Let's say commit message, add tests. And let's just push to our repo, which should be the forked repo that we are using. And if we just go back to GitHub and open your repository on GitHub, you can see that we have a new branch. Make sure to don't set the base repository. So select the master branch from your own forked repo. Create a pull request, and the Bitrise check is already running. I think we can actually open this here. No? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, it is running. Okay, cool. Hmm? Nice. Oh, has it failed?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Something in the snapshot.
Oh, yes. One thing is missing. Because, as you know, these questions, the answers, they are shuffled, because the way we implemented this component is that we have one correct answer and a list of incorrect answers. So if you actually see the game component, we have a list of first item is the correct answer, and we have the incorrect answers. And after that, we shuffle these. So the user don't always choose the first as the correct answer. But inside Y testing, we don't want this shuffle to work because that's basically really against the snapshot testing. So we are going to mock this shuffle function. And let's say just mock, we can put the module name here, which will be utils helpers, and give this a function. And first of all, return an object here with the function name called shuffle, and it will be a just mock function, except that we give it a mock implementation, which is just return anything that any argument here. But if we leave it like this, it will mock everything in the helpers, so any other functions will be removed. So what we need is get the original helpers module, and we can say that just require actual and give it the same path. What's this? /utils/helpers. And this is the original helpers module, so just spread that here. And now the snapshot failed because it was not correctly run in the first time. So let's say yarn test dash and the U for updating the snapshots. And the snapshot is updated, and just run yarn test again. And if we run it many times, it should work all the time because the shuffle function is now mocked, and it always returns the same. Okay. Let's commit these changes, also the snapshot. Fix snapshot testing. And we can push again. And it is really good that it turned out during a Bitrise workflow that our tests broke. Okay, basically this is the end for the first coding section. So, do you guys have any questions for these? Okay, I hope everybody has a green check on the pull request. So let's merge it to master, and the publish will be on the way to Expo. But nothing will change because we haven't added any feature yet, so it will be exactly the same as before, just with tests. And the publish is running. Okay, because we are kind of short on time, I think there's no need for a short break, or let me know if anybody has a need for it. Okay. So is anybody ready for the next coding section, which will be implementing a small feature with also testing? So if you are ready, then let's go. I just change back to the master branch and pull the latest changes. And let's create another branch. It will be, we are implementing this small button here, which, as you may know from this quiz game, this is a lifeline button which removes half of the incorrect answers, so it will be easier for the player, but so far it's not doing anything. So let's create a branch called lifeline feature or something like that. And what we are going to do first is let me know how many of you have worked with test-driven development before. Hands up. Okay, cool. Because this is what we are going to do. So this means that we are going to write the tests first before the feature itself. And after the tests, we will do the implementation until all the tests has passed. And this is a little bit of overhead with too much tests, but in the long run and with larger projects, it's really beneficial. So back to the app.test file, and let's create one test case, which will be, it should remove half of incorrect answers after help button is used. And by help button, I mean this one in the top. Okay, first of all, same usual thing. Render the app. And with this structure, find all by test ID here. And now we want to query all these buttons, but we can't search for them by them names, but we can search by other things, not this. We can, where is it? Sorry, it's in the quiz question component. We can see that all of these buttons has a test ID, which is answer dash and the index. So we can say that buttons is await find all by test ID, and instead of string we can give it a regular expression, which will be answer, and in a bracket it will be answer and any one-digit number. And don't forget the async here. So we have the buttons. Cool. We can expect that first, before we use the help, the buttons have a length of 4. Let's run the test again, and it should be 4. Yes, it is 4. Okay, let's search for this help button. Const help button, and this we can look for the get by test ID. And let's see what the ID is. This button basically makes half of the questions disappear. So the test ID is, of course, Thanos. We have the help button. Let's call fire event.press with the help button. And now we can't use the buttons from before because this is the old buttons before the press. So let's search for them again, call remaining buttons is find all by test ID, and we can use the same expression again. Nice. No. Same regular expression, if I could type. Yeah, that's it. And we can say that expect remaining buttons have length of 2. And if we are good, it failed. And why does it fail? Why? What's this error? What? Oh, I forgot an await here. So we are actually expecting a promise. Okay, now it looks better. So we are expecting a length of 2, but we are getting 4 because we haven't implemented the feature yet. So let's do it. Let's go into the game component. And we have the button here, which when pressed will cut half of the incorrect answers. Let's create a function called use help. No, it's not a good name. Handle help button pressed, and this will be a use callback because it will depend on some of the props in this component, mainly the quiz, the current question itself. Let's say that if we have a current question and we need this check because in the beginning the list of questions is empty, so it might be undefined. So if we have a current question, let's see, we can select all the incorrect answers. And we can say that current question dot incorrect answers. But we don't want to cut always the same from the answers. So let's shuffle those. Let's shuffle the incorrect answers, and how much do we want to cut? Exactly half of them, which is 2. So we have a list of incorrect answers, and we can say set answers here, and we use the function signature in this setter, which will be previous answers, and we say that prev.filter, and we want to filter any answer only which is not included in the incorrect answers. I mean the shuffled incorrect answers. So it's not included answer here. So we are setting all the answers which are not in the selected that will be removed. Okay, that's it. Let's run the test again. And it should be no, because it's still 4. And why is it 4? Because we haven't used the function itself. So on this button, say on press and add the function to that. And we have some snapshots failed because we added some properties to the buttons. So let's run yarn test -u to update the snapshots. And everything is working again. We are running the tests. And everything is green. Okay, that's cool. Then we can test this here. Cool. But we don't want that the user can spam this button and leave only the correct answer there. So we can simulate this. Where is it? Yeah, we can simulate it if we just copy this line again. And why is it passing? That's interesting because if we press the button twice, it should fail. Oh yeah, it failed. Something must have been in cache or something. Yeah, so this test case fails because the user pressed the button twice and we are expecting for 2, which is the correct use case. So let's fix this by going back to the not the game component, but the app component. And let's use a Boolean flag here called is lifeline used, and in the beginning it is false. Before we don't forget, we reset this to false when we reset the game. And let's just pass these two to the game component. Is lifeline used is passed here, and set is lifeline used, also passed here. Okay. So we just add these two to the props in the game component. This is a Boolean. And this is the setter for that. Okay, and let's use these. And we can say that when the button is pressed, we check if it's already used, don't do anything more. And if it's used for the first time, we set it to true. And it's working again. Just one thing we need to fix is that in the game.test test file, we need to extend the props with these two. So it's false. And the set is lifeline used is just just a mock function. And something failed. Wow. Nope, false error. Okay, any questions for this small feature and the testing?
Yeah, well, when do you have to use the weight and that not when you use some from the render?
You mean for the like this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to use the weight sometimes. For example, get by testing.
Yes. Not here. For the find by and find all by, you can use a wait because it gives back a promise. Get by and get all by is just a simple element, and the query by is either null or an empty array. So you have to use. You can use async await for the find functions. And you can also use await before the wait for, which is basically, well, we are waiting for get by text, so it is almost like find by text, yes. Okay, so let's commit everything we have. Implement help button and tests. And we are on the new branch, so let's push it. And let's create a new pull request from this. Again, don't forget to use the correct base repository. Okay, and after this Bitrise check is done, we can merge to master, and the new feature will be published to your Expo account, and you can test it on your device. So until then, any questions? Then I think, oh, not so fast. Snapshot. Oh. Does anybody also have this fail test?
Possible that sometimes you get
question to answer
I think no, because we are using the mock response and we always have 4 answers. Yes.
Does your scope depend on the flag? Whether you can
You mean the shuffle function?
If you go back to the game and check the scope, it is not depending on the lifetime used variable, so the test is calling it too fast for the random.
Yes, that's a good catch. Well, I'm happy with that solution, so let's push it to production. Fix. What was it? Okay. Anyway, could anybody merge the pull request already? Okay, let's see. Okay, it seems to have fixed, so let's merge it to master. And hopefully it can be published to Expo. Okay, does it work for everybody with this fix? Okay, then I think we are at the end of this second coding section, which is the final coding section. So thank you everybody for joining.